So today I want to talk about my daughter and her issues with saliva and aspiration. So my daughter was born as a 25-week micropreemie, and she's been diagnosed with cerebral palsy level 5, and she has a lot of trouble with a delayed swallow reflex. So that flap that goes over to cover up your lungs, it's about a 2-second delay. So a lot can get down into your lungs in 2 seconds if you're trying to swallow something. So this becomes an issue not just for feeding, which we don't do. She's completely tube fed. But it also becomes an issue when we're just talking about saliva. So it's always a concern about, is she swallowing her saliva? Is it going down into her lungs? What can we do about it? When she was younger, she was in foster care and with an amazing family. The family was very observant, and they noticed that what she used to do when she was a little baby was move along blankets until she got to a tag, and then she would suck on a tag. This was actually really brilliant of her. Sucking on tags do a few things. One, it helps with sensory issues. Kids that aren't tube fed lots of times sort of have this need to have things in their mouth because they're not getting that need filled when they're eating. The other thing that it does is sort of having something there helps with the swallow reflex. And the third thing that it does is it absorbs some of that saliva. So some of the saliva that instead of going down into her lungs can get soaked up by the blanket. Her family was looking for some alternatives, and they found these. So these are Taggie blankets. So it's actually a brand name, Taggie. They're made by Bright Stars. I ordered these on Amazon. You can get really neat ones that are animals or those kinds of things, or you can just get plain ones. This one's pretty plain. You can also make them pretty easy. It's just if you've got, a sewing machine at home, and you want to just get sort of some loops of fabric and sew them around a blanket. They're great for babies or for older kids who have special needs. What I like about these ones is they kind of have different textures and sizes. So depending on what your kid likes, they can do different ones. You can probably tell some of them have been just far more destroyed than others. This one's pretty pristine. This one here was one of her favorites. She's just completely destroyed it. The other thing that's good on these ones is that some of them come with, these are kind of, I don't know if you can tell, they're thicker. They're made out of rubber. So some kids with sensory needs also feel like they need to bite on things and chew things. So this kind of gives them that option too, right? They can either do the sucking on the tag or they can do the chewing on these ones. This was a really great option. I was a little concerned when she was starting kindergarten. I wanted something that was a little more age appropriate than carrying around a blanket. The other thing that I was worried about is these would often fall on the floor. It's not so bad at home. I'm very clean. I don't worry that much about how dirty my floor is. In kindergarten or when you're outside, it's a bigger issue. So I wanted something that was a little more age appropriate, and B, that was kind of attached to my daughter in some fashion so it couldn't land on the ground. I started looking around and I came up with this idea to make these necklaces. So they have fabric tags down at the bottom, and then something that was really important to me is they all have these quick release at the top. So if anything ever got caught or it got yanked, they would just come off. I was worried about her having something around her neck that was, that wouldn't release if it got tugged on, especially in kindergarten. Kindergarten, you never know. So what I did was I went out and I just looked for lanyards. So I didn't sew this snazzy quick release in. it actually just came that way. Lots of times you can find them. This one I found in the dollar store. I found other ones online. The ones that I found all sort of had this kind of idea at the end. So usually they're made for either keys or an ID badge. So they have this kind of thing on the end. So what I did was I just took out the stitching, so removed this part so that I was just left with the fabric loop and the quick release on the end. So this is one that I have made. So it's got a different kind of quick release, but still has that safety release on it. And then I've just taken the end and I've just looped them around and I've just kind of sewn them up. I am not a great seamstress. I did this by hand. It took about 5 minutes to do, just a quick sew up. Some of them were a little bit longer to start out with. So this lanyard was a little bit longer to start out with. So I had more ribbon or fabric. So I was able to kind of flip it around a few more times. And again, I just stitched this one by hand. And they've lasted pretty well. They come home and I will either throw them in a sink full of soapy water, give them really good wash and rinse. I'll hang them back up on my daughter's wheelchair to let them dry so they're clean in the morning. I put them through the washing machine if I'm doing a load of laundry. You know, they're just super easy. And then it's something that she can either have around her neck, or sometimes what we'll do is if she's on the bus and she has her chest strap on her wheelchair, we'll loop it around the chest strap on her wheelchair or attach it to her jacket or those kinds of things, so that she has access to it when she does. She's actually pretty good at being able to grab it and put it in her mouth when she thinks she needs it. Other kids might need some help with that. But it seems to have worked pretty good. So hopefully if you guys are experiencing the same kind of problem and you want to give it a go, then maybe that will work for you. Or if that won't work for you, then maybe a Taggie blanket is something that might work for you. Either something that you can make or something that you can buy. Hope it helps. Oh, and if you want to find us, here we are. If you have any question, you can contact me through our Facebook page at Sienna Smiles. Bye.